And in the bottom left, in the red, he is the reigning GSL Super Tournament Grand Champion, Trap. And in the bottom right, in the blue, the ace of Kaitsa Gaming, he is Solar. So, game one on Blackburn, that is surprising, to say the least, as Blackburn is, in all honesty, well, it's not pro players' favorite map. That's what I will say. It's got, it's wide open, it starts really small, right, which makes a lot of Zerg players, a lot of Protoss players not all that comfortable. It is, it's kind of hard, it's kind of hard to attack the third base, but it's really easy to attack the natural, and then it gets rather late game favorite as the game goes on, right? The map expands a lot and it gets these crazy games. And because of that, because of how hard it is to stay alive early and also how hard it is to kill your opponent late, which is kind of a weird thing to be on one map. Oh, it's hard for me to not die early, but also hard for me to kill later. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's how this map really ends up working. Well, Protoss players, they don't tend to be a fan of that because they don't want to die early. Zerg players, not a fan of that as much because, well, killing a Protoss in the late game is hard enough as it is when we're talking about those Sky Toss compositions. I mean, sure, if you're Serral or someone and you're playing against a inferior opponent, but if you're playing against Trap, the progenitor of the modern Sky Toss style, well, yeah, it's not maybe the most fun thing. So we're gonna have to see whether Solar does something early. It feels like Queen Walks have really fallen out of the meta as Trap and other Protoss players, but namely Trap, have figured out new builds to really deal with that. I'm a big fan of the +1 build right now. So you open your kind of standard Stargate idea, but you get your third base just a little bit later. And what do you get with that third base that's just a little bit later? Well, you get +1. And +1 Void Rays, as they attack, I think it's like 5 times a second or something ridiculous. They, that +1 is 5 additional DPS, right? It makes a big difference when we're talking about killing queens. It makes those Void Rays suddenly able to go and actually take the fight against queens instead of just kind of being zoned out and dying. And it seems to be working very well. I kind of like it. We haven't really seen a good Zerg response to that one yet. I mean, maybe there's some Hydra busts, but in general, honestly, Hydra busts aren't all that great. They're too much expenditure, and it doesn't seem to work out all that well. So we're going to have to see what exactly Solar's got going here. If anyone has a new build that's going to deal with the next level of shenanigan that Trap is going for, and well, I didn't really notice whether it was a Warpgate first or Stargate first, but if anyone is prepared to deal with the shenanigans the Trap likes to throw at Zerg players, well, it's Solar. He is, I don't know if he's infamous, but he's infamous in my eyes for going and dealing with a build. A really good example of this is Zest 2-base carrier, by the way, where there was a span where they met in Grand Finals twice, on Korea and then North America 2 days later. I think this was like EPT Cup 80. And Solar did not look great against Zest's 2-base. I think Solar ended up winning the series, but it was 3-2 and it was very close. Solar didn't look great against Zest's 2-base carrier build. And then we see EPT North America and suddenly Solar's realized that, yeah, Hydra Queen Nidus, it just annihilates this, and he did that. And he did that in 2 games, got 2 free wins, and Zest lost 3-1, 3-0. So we're going to have to see what Solar has in store for us today. As Trap right now just getting a little bit aggressive with these Adepts, and really he's not going to get a whole lot. I mean, he's going to shade out and get a couple Zerglings for it, sure. But we really haven't seen Trap tip his hand just yet. As I say that, +1 air is going to be on the way. And Solar's just got this rather soon. He's got Zerglings on the map. And he's going to say, look, okay, your Cyber Core is very clearly researching something, and well, it's not Warp Gate because I can see the Warp Gates. They are done. Now this Oracle's going to fly on in, and hey, you know what? If you can't get more drones, as 2 workers do go down, I guess Zerglings are a worthy bounty indeed. But now we have Spores in position. These drones are going to be able to mine appropriately. And Trap, you know, he may have some of the best Oracle micro in the world, but, you know, you can't beat 3 Queens in a Spore, especially with a damaged Oracle. So it's going to move on out, and it will provide a Trap with map control for the duration of this game until maybe he loses it if he isn't paying attention. But that's doubtful. Again, Trap, incredible Oracle control. So let's see, +1 attack underway. We got a second Stargate, of course. So this is double Stargate Void Ray. And Solar, yeah, he's got his lair on the way. He's got his Roach Horn on the way. But realistic, oh, That's not a full wall. Zerglings are going to start filtering on in through there. And that means a couple Zerglings, well, they're going to get a scout off in the main base. They're going to try to kill something in the natural. But these are a bunch of orange Zerglings against a rather strong probe pool. It's really not going to get all that much. Meanwhile, it looks like the Oracle finding damage on the third base of Solar. So, yeah, well, I'm sorry, not Oracles. Adepts finding damage here on the third base. And one Adept is even going to escape for just a little longer. Maybe he can get 2 shots off on a drone. Yeah, he's going to get another one. 5 workers do go down. Nice damage here from Trap for really minimal commitments. And yeah, Solar didn't commit that much either, but felt like it was just a little bit more. So now Solar, he's got 3 bases. His 4th base is only just starting now, but Trap, he's wonderfully solidly on 3 bases. He's on even worker counts with the Zerg player. His +1 is just about done. Double Void Array underway. I mean, Solar is not going to bust this. Solar is not really in a position where he's going to be able to break through what the Protoss player has, and I think he's starting to realize that. I mean, yeah, he's got Roach Speed underway, but he's got his 4th base. He's taking that gold. We don't see a bunch of Roaches being built, anything like that. Well, we're gonna have to see what he does, but it really doesn't feel like he's getting ready for some sort of big mid-game push that one might expect. The Zerglings will find these Adepts. Adepts are gonna find a couple more drones here, and I mean, that is the story of this game here for Trap. Realistically, feels like he's just doing such a good job of knocking down a couple workers here there with Adepts 2x2. I mean, 2 Adepts, 1 shot of drone, so that's expected. But just getting them in and getting 5 workers there, 2 workers there, and yeah, maybe 2 workers for 2 Adepts is not the most cost-efficient play, but at the end of the day, Solar, he's even on economy against a 3-base Protoss player, which never feels all that great. I like what he's doing. We should point out here, we got a Spire underway from Solar, and this is pretty cool. This is something that we've seen pretty much Raynor, Solar, and DRG doing as of late, where the idea is that you say, okay, look, you're going Stargate. I understand you're going Stargate. That's fine. I don't want you to go into Skytoss. Or a better way to say that is I don't want you to go into carriers, because carriers are scary, especially off a +1 build. It means it's a quick +2 timing. It's scary. The Zerg player doesn't want to deal with it. So what they do is they say, I'm going to get a Spire. I'm going to get something like 13 mutas. I'm going to run across the map. I'm going to force you into Phoenix. I'm going to build Corruptors, and then we're going to play Phoenix Corruptor against a Void Array Phoenix, and that is a much more manageable composition that the Zerg player has to deal with compared to mass +2 carriers and Storm and all that fun stuff. That being said, I mean, +1 is done for air and ground by Trav at this point. You know, 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. And I think what do we like? 3 lanterns if it's by air and land? I don't know. Anyway, 50 mutas are now on the map here, and this really, we shouldn't see too many more mutas made other than this unless Solar really finds a insane advantage. But actually, look at this. Trap's going to get aggressive here right at the perfect timing, right as these mutas are about to pop on out. And I mean, Solar has committed his money to this. It is 15 mutas. It is something that he does have to be afraid of. But theoretically, he should be able to Magic Fox. It's only 2 Archons. If he gets the good damage that he's looking for, he should be able to knock this down rather simply. But I mean, that being said, the Void Rays are just killing everything. Nice Magic Boxing on these mutas. 1 Archon is not even going to go down. Saved here by the Warp Prism. But it looks like this push from Trap is ever so slowly getting whittled down, getting beaten up. And yeah, Trap will be forced on back here. Mutas are going to get on top of this Warp Prism at the end of the day. But a lot of these mutas have gone down. We started with 15. 7 mutas died. So now it is only 8 mutas on the map, which are still damage potential to be sure. But maybe not quite as powerful as what Trap originally had. And now, yeah, we see Solar going on into a bunch of Roaches here. Makes sense. You know you're forcing Phoenix out. You can do 2 things. You can go into Phoenix Corruptor, or if you've taken the damage that you had from that attack that Trap put on out, you say, okay, well, I'm going to flood you with Roaches, and you're not going to have Void Rays. You're just going to have all these useless Phoenix that really are not going to do that much for you. And I said, by the way, that this Oracle was not going to get any more worker damage. Well, if you don't put Spores in the 4th base, there's that. Just saying. All right, so we have 4 Phoenix on the map now, going on up to 6. And I mean, these can kill Ravagers. Some timing, but now we have Solar. He's got a double army supply lead at this point, just about a 40 army supply lead running on in. And yeah, he has no upgrades. Actually, this is starting to be a bit of a problem here with the flank from the Zealots and the Immortals, but with the Queens walking as well. This push is about to get a whole lot scarier for Solar, and it looks like at least one of those Phoenix took a bile. It is certainly very low. And yeah, Solar is just going to commit to the Phoenix play. He says, you know, I can't go back into Void Rays at this point. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I just got to build a lot of Phoenix and hope this is going to work out. You know what? If you lift all the Queens, they're not nearly as scary as they might otherwise be. Probes are getting pulled here as well. Archons Zealots, Immortals flanking in from every side. The Queens are starting to go on down. And, you know, not a lot of probes are dying yet. It is only 2. The Mutas are not getting anything done here. And Trap, you know, the supply lead, it was 60. Now it's only 40. And I say only, but it's starting to feel like maybe he's got a little bit of a hold here. He does have that 4th base, although he's not mining from it. He's on 60-odd workers. And he's got good upgrades. I mean, that's the big deal here. Trap has been able to advance his tech, advance his economy. Solar, he's on 0-0 Roach Ravager, and yeah, he's going to get a Baneling Nest. That's nice, but it feels like maybe the timing for this army that Solar has made, it's not done yet. To be sure, he's still got time with that army, but it feels like the timing is ever so slowly running on out again. Plus 2 Phoenix can actually do significant value to Roaches again without that lack of any sort of Carapace upgrades. I know, gotta be careful there, Ravagers, but it looks like there's no energy on the Phoenix, so it's fine. I mean, this is just Archon Storm Immortal with a couple of shards less. This is an incredibly expensive army that the Protoss player does have. I mean, we're going to see some Vials drop down onto this 3rd base. That's not going to get much done. That's fine. The cannon will go down, though, as a bunch of Queens, they walk, and they're just getting taken on down here. And it's the Storms that Solar really has to be careful of. He can afford, you know, he can afford to engage the rest of this army. It's not pretty to engage into 4 Archons when you got Zerglings, but you know what, as long as you don't eat massive storms, it's really not like they have a lot of oomph. But here at Solar, he holds the high ground as he's just dropping storms on the head of this Roach Ravager force. It's making it more and more difficult for Solar to really continue pushing on in. As I say that, of course, we really should not underestimate just how big of an army that Solar has here. He is up 60 supply. All of that is an army. And oh, it looks like Immortal's going to get caught out here. Oh, we got the save there with a Phoenix, but it's not going to be enough. And these storms are just not killing enough here. It was starting to get really scary. Trap's army was starting to get rather scary, but it's only 2 Immortals now. It's not 3. We're going to see 2 High Templars go on down. A couple of them start to get more targeted on down more and more here. And yes, Solar's got this run by, or excuse me, Trap's got this run by going out into the main base, and that's going to be something. But it feels like we're starting to hit this critical mass where no longer is Trap just kind of trading and not losing his tech. Now he is starting to lose the tech just a little bit more. And that becomes even more dicey. Although, again, I love these +2 Zealots. They're just going to sit on the ramp here in the main base of the Natural, knock down reinforcements, knock down whatever Solar sends back to deal with it. And you know what? This army is a lot smaller now. Solar had forced to send back about half his army home. He's not going to be able to get retreat all of it. And yeah, that Bile is going to land, kill off a Stalker. That is a lot of Ravagers that have just gone down. And now Trap, he feels safe enough. Funny, being down 50 army supply and feeling safe, but he does, to drop down a fleet beacon behind this to start moving on into that next level of tech, move on into carriers, and then it can be truly carrier storm Archon, and that is just not a fun situation for the Zerg to have to engage on into. Now, I like this position that Solar's taking because, you know, eventually this is a rich gold. He will be able to go and knock down and actually run Banelings through the depleted mineral patches. Actually, it looks like we're getting rather close to that indeed. So this battle is going to land the Phoenix or the cannon we hardly knew ye. He did not last for very long at all. But now, I mean, Blink is just about done. We have a lot more Archons than we had previously. It is a 40 army supply lead once again, but if we look at army value, it's actually pretty equivalent here. In fact, Trap's army is more expensive. I mean, that's one of the issues with playing a composition like this. He has a lot of supply. And yeah, Ravagers are expensive, but not that expensive. And now, okay, so the Storm's going to move on in, and it's just going to sit on top of this army. And yeah, Roaches are a lot better than Zerglings or Hydras against the Storm. But again, feels like that's the common thread we've been saying most of this game. They're better, but they're not that better. These Phoenix, oh, okay, one will go on down. And we're going to see some Storms on top of the morphing Banelings here, but really not going to get a whole lot done, unfortunately, for Trap fans. That being said, the Banelings are not going to have the best connections. Unfortunately, High Templars and the War Prism does mean that these Archons, they do start to go down here, but I mean, these Storms are just starting to be incredibly juicy. And I mean, Solar, he is on 5 base, but his 4th base is starting to mine out just a little bit. Looks like we got Zealot run-bys on the upper right-hand side as well. Yeah, it's not going to get much done, though. Just a distraction here from Solar. And it feels like, yeah, so Trap did move into Fleet Beacon, and you're like, okay, Trap feels safe, but feels like he's running. It's kind of, this game's kind of weird because you're looking at this, you're like, okay, the supplies are starting to equalize just a little bit. The army value is starting to equalize just a little bit. Army values actually has been in Trap's favor for a good portion of this game. But I mean, Solar is still on the forefront here. He's still on the aggressive. He's still making it incredibly difficult for Trap to ever take any engagement. And notice the minute Trap steps on the high ground, he says, yeah, I want to kill off your army here. Ooh, not a great storm drop. This is one High Templar will go down. The minute this happens, we see Zerglings, Roaches, Ravagers trying to put pressure on the gold base. In fact, now that there are minerals dead, or minerals mined out, it's making it much easier for Solar to take that engagement. We will have Banelings looking to run on into the third base. Nice body blocking there with a couple drones. It means only 16 workers died, but that is still 16 dead workers. And that being said, it's now a 26 army supply difference for the first time in this game, or at least the first time in quite a while. Trap is starting to equalize, at least get much closer to the army supply of Solar. And if we look at income, well, it's still not great. It's still not great for Solar over Trap. Well, yeah, it's just not great. That's what we got to say about that. This Ravager will get taken on down here. Zealots should be able to knock that one down. I mean, this is +3 ground. We do have carriers out on the map now, but oh no, Zerglings, they're going to find their way on into the main and natural. And they got +1. They will be able to do a much better job at dealing with these pros, about dealing with with whatever structures Trap has made. But okay, Warpins will be able to delay things. These +1 carriers are going to be able to ward off all of these Zerglings on the natural. But as much as we like to talk about how, okay, well, you know, it's not like Trap's going to lose all that much in the main base, in the natural, because carriers are here, well, he's really has not been allowed to mine off of this fourth base for the majority of this game, and his Skytoss army is not there, right? It is in the third base, it is in the main, it is in that natural, warding away all the stuff. So this fight that Trap's trying to take, okay, that's going to be some really good storms here, and even as Trap does look to retreat, does look to lose a couple Archons, he's still going to take a pretty good trade. Now we have a bunch of Zealots on the other side of the map. Where are our carriers, though? That's the really big question. Yeah, it looks like they are with the main armies. These Zealots are actually starting to find tremendous damage here. Looks like this base should go down. Okay, it looks like Trap's going to run them back, but the base is going to take half damage. And honestly, we're sitting here on 7 Corruptors versus 2 carriers. Actually, that's a fairly decent number for both sides. But the crazy thing is that, honestly, the supplies are a little bit deceiving here. It's 90 supply to 120 army supply. Trap, yeah, he's on 38 workers, but this army that he's made, well, it is vastly, well, it's a lot closer in resource than it previously was. But this army that he's made is really scary, and as long as the storms hit these Corruptors well, it's not going to be all that easy here for Solar to really take this engagement. I mean, yeah, maybe she's going to be able to deal with some Queens, but in general, not going to be all that great. As the Corruptors, they're going to sit on underneath this one Archon. That's not going to be all that great. The Storms, though, those are the big question here. Can the Archon sit underneath these Corruptors? Can the Storms do what they need to do? And it looks like that answer is no. Carrier 1 is dead. Carrier 2 is dead. The army here of Trap is falling apart. And GG, he says, game 1 goes to the Kites of Gaming Zerg. All right, so we're gonna do something here. I asked you all last time whether I should keep doing player intros after that first game, and the answer was no. For really the overwhelming response was, honestly, we know who's in this. This is a VOD. We'd rather hear you talk about whatever, or just not talk at all. So let me know if you like that. Let me know in the comments if you think what we're doing here is a good idea. We're just gonna keep talking about the games and not really do player intros after the first one. It actually takes the muscle memory for me to not to do it, but let me know if that's what you want. If not, well, we'll go back to player intros. Yeah, curious. But anyways, game 1, it really felt that Trap was one step away from finally having that hold, from finally reaching that tech that he needed to make sure that he was in a good spot, to make sure that he was actually going to be able to make the hold happen. And every time he got just so vanishingly close, Solar said, no, I got like 5 more Ravagers. I'm going to be able to deny your mining. I'm going to be able to knock down your economy back into the Stone Ages. Whatever it was. It meant that Trap could just never quite hit that point that he was looking for. Not quite. Game 2, Lightshade is a shorter map. It does have a slightly safer third base, although honestly, Blackburn's third base is pretty easy to hold. Really, it's the natural that's the scary thing. And when you only have to hold one base as a Protoss player, that's a lot easier. And it's not like Stargate builds are bad on this map. In fact, this is I would say this is a good map, but honestly, every map is well, Beckett's a little different, but we don't talk about Beckett. The other maps pretty much all pretty good for that Stargate build. I mean, some are a little bit better than others. Romanticide is god tier as your default, only defending 1 ramp for 2 bases. It's just fantastic. Oxide is fairly good as well. Or not Oxhead, I'm sorry. Death Orb, but that's not in the map pool anymore. Juggernaut's also another fairly decent one. But in general, if it's a map, you can build Stargate on it. You can do the double Stargate build. And this is interesting, though. Trap has opted to not go for Warp Gate into Stargate, which is kind of his want. I didn't see whether he did it in game number 1. But for a while, Trap was pretty much the only Protoss player. Parting kind of does it occasionally, but not nearly as often as Trap does, where he goes Warp Gate into Stargate, which means faster Warp Gate, faster ground units if he wants that, maybe a little bit easier defense of Zergling's Floods into the third base at the expense of having a slower Oracle, a slower Void Array. I mean, it's marginal. Doesn't really make that big a difference. And actually, the biggest thing it does is it means that the Zerg doesn't have the free scout on whether you're going Warp Gate or not. Or sorry, whether you're going Stargate or not. Because if you're right at 230 mark and you're like, well, there's no Warp Gate. Okay, I know it's a Stargate or a Robo, and 99 games out of 100, it's a Stargate. So it really takes a lot of the early game guesswork out of the Zerg play. They know, okay, well, I don't need to get a quick Roach Warren. I know the timing I need to get my spores on. It just makes life very easy for the Zerg player. But I mean, Trap, he's going to prioritize getting a quicker Void Ray, getting a quicker Oracle over denying that scouting. And that's fine. I mean, both are absolutely valid. Protoss players win significant amounts of games with both builds. So it's not like, oh, this is really problematic. But it is interesting. Okay, so we'll be Void Ray into Oracle here, which is not surprising. Again, Trap just very good at finding value with those Oracles. And one thing I hope to see him do here, on a map that has, well, the creep is not really connected between the natural and the third base just yet. One thing that he can look to do is dive the Oracle into, say, the natural, dive the Void Ray into the third or the main, and just hope to, well, get maybe a couple extra probes than he might otherwise not be able to do. That being said, he is doing the same build he went for last time, right? We see that second Stargate right on time. We see +1 right on time. And that means that any sort of Queen Walk that Solar may opt to go for, not going to be all that great once again. And how many queens do we have? Okay, 6 queens. How many drones just died there? So 3 workers died. That's fine. But only 6 queens. We're going to have to see whether he opts to make any more. So Depth Shade on into the main base, find more value. And unfortunately, it looks like this map was not made with Game Heart, so we don't have that wonderful instantaneous overlay. And it is, okay, 4 workers for 2 adepts. Absolutely worthwhile there. Nice job there from Trap. And that may be everything he needs. I mean, I don't really like Queen Walk as much anymore. I mean, it absolutely can win, but against this build in particular, I'm not the biggest fan. And against Trap, the progenitor of the style, I'm not the biggest fan of that Queen Walk style in general. Honestly, losing 7 workers may be enough to dissuade Solar from doing it anyways. But he is adding more queens. He is going up to 7 at the very least. We have that Roach Warren going down. Lair as well. I mean, we're building up into the possibility here that he does go a Queen Walk once again. But it is going up to 6 gas. And that means that whatever he does, even if he does go for some sort of higher eco Queen Walk, I mean, he's on 63 workers. There are some like 62 to 66 Queen Walk builds, but they're a little bit rarer. It does feel like he's going to go into some higher tech behind this. Getting 6 gas probably means that this is going to be a Spire behind this. And that means that Solar, realistically, he's going to go for the same build he went for in game number 1. Look to find value, look to force Trap away from early carriers, as so many Protoss players are wont to do. And on this map, well, I don't think well, as I say, that 3 more queens are underway, so maybe not. We're going up to 10 queens, and that does tell me that this is going to be some sort of Roach, some sort of Queen Walk across the map. I mean, there's room for Nidus play, maybe. But the interesting thing, Solar's banking a lot of minerals and gas. I mean, he's going to build 12 Roaches immediately, and he is freeing himself up a decent amount more supply. But again, it's just very interesting. It feels like he's building up for this Roach Queen attack, and he's just not really building up for it all that efficiently. In fact, yeah, Trap is going to say, okay, well, I'm kind of defending against this, and I'm a bit worried about it because, it's Lightshade. But he will cancel a couple of those shield batteries, cancel some canisters. Like, okay, well, you're not going for this. If you are, it's going to be late enough that I'm going to be totally fine. And I remain unconvinced that that's what Solar's going for. Again, he's going up to 10 queens. Oh, but you know what this actually may be? This really could just be a Dark style where he gets a Infestation Pit rather quickly, goes into Queen Infestor and goes from there. But no, the Queens are starting to move on forward. And yeah, it looks like Solar has successfully pulled the wool over Trap's eyes in this game. Trap was just really not preparing for this. And now he's going to drop cannons everywhere. He thinks this is the Spire build that caused so many problems for him in game number 1. But it's not. Queens are starting to walk across the map just now. And now it looks like Trap is going to get his first scout of things as the Queens, the Roaches, and the Ravagers, they find their way on in. And yes, Solar will lose this base. And that is something, yes, we will see Solar supply blocked at about 170 supply. But Trap's not all that big, and this Disruptor shot is going to be rather nice indeed. Only doing damage to the Queens, though. I feel like you just want to blow up Ravagers at this point. Yes, Queens, killing them off and knocking down energy is a fantastic thing to do. Knocking down the Roaches and the Ravagers is the really important thing. Now, it should be noted here that we haven't really seen any Void Rays die just yet. They're sitting above, on top of these Roaches, on top of these Ravagers, with their +1 beams, doing tremendous damage. The first Disruptor is going to come off a cooldown here. Some Queens will be exploded, and we're going to see a second one join the fray rather soon. Trap really hasn't lost a lot in this game, and it looks like his hold is starting to be rather nice indeed. Now, I do like the addition here of Zerglings. That is a lot more difficult for these Void Rays, really for the ground army, or the air army of Trap to deal with, as the Queens are starting to get rather low, both in energy and health. So one's going to go down, and the rest of them should go down as well, but Trap is starting to lose economy. Just a little bit. 20 probes have died, and looks like he's going to lose this third base as well. I mean, it's an expensive idea here for Solar, don't get me wrong, but the third base of Trap is now going to go on down, and this is going to be a bit problematic for the Protoss player. The worry, though, and the thing we always got to ask ourselves is, at what cost? Was this worthwhile here for the Kites of Gaming Zerg? He lost a tremendous amount. I mean, granted, it's actually just about as much as Trap lost, because he lost, what? 24 workers, Nexus, shield batteries, 4 Void Rays, all that fun stuff. But really the question is, does he have enough in the air? He only has 7 Queens, but they really don't have the energy that they're looking for. It looks like 1 Transfuse is the name of the game. And, well, we have Void Ray speed underway as well as, looks like, sorry, is that Warp Prism speed observers? Looks like Warp Prism speed as well. But it looks like there's just enough here from Solar to be able to force these Void Rays back. And we're not going to see some sort of game-ending counterpunch from Trap. I mean, not yet at the very least. So 13 meters are on the way, and it should be mentioned, of course, that +1 Void Rays, certainly in the number that Trap has, he's at 10, he's just adding more and more and more. They actually can deal with mutas rather well, as these Disruptors are just going to blow up a lot of Queens. Nice tags there. And yeah, more and more Zerglings are going to find their way in, more Roaches, more Ravagers, trying to knock this third base down once again, as these Queens are just going to keep taking so much damage. And again, if the Queens are down, there is no push here. The Void Rays are going to be able to knock that down rather easily indeed. So now the meters are just about out, but this third base will stay alive. And I mean, it's double Stargate Void. They have +1. We're going to sit here on still only 10, but we're going to go up to 12 rather soon. 12 Voids against 16 mutas. In all honesty, when Voids have +1, that's not that terrible of a fight. Okay, actually, they are rather injured, though, so they will be forced to recall. 3 will go on down. Now, hey, it's triple Stargate Phoenix. And the Void Rays are fast, so they're going to be able to react to mutas in the short term. And then, well, we already have a fleet beacon, so we can see Pulse Crystals rather easily, as well as the Solar's mutas. They're just going to try to jump on top of the tech here of Trap, jump on top of Disruptors, jump on top of Void Rays, just trying to kill them all off. But now Phoenix are going to start hitting the fray. And again, Phoenix effectively +1 is +2 because they have 2 shots, right? They do double damage on that. Zergling's trying to get on top of the ground out here. Probes are getting pulled to defend this. But once again, the mutas are starting to go on down here, and this feels like it's just going to be a hold once again. The mutas, what are they doing? Targeting down the Void Rays here at the expense of the Phoenix. More and more mutas are hitting the sky, but this army from Trap is just trading better. The Trap will not lose his third base. Solar, yeah, he's got a 4th base, but it's only on 67 workers. The Phoenix here are starting to hit critical mass, especially with +1, that we're just seeing the mutas evaporate. And where does Solar go from here? I mean, yeah, he can add Corruptors, but he's only on 67 workers. And I guess he goes for some sort of like Roach Queen muta timing once again, but we're at this point, once the mutas are knocked down from the sky with these with the Phoenix, the Queens can't do a lot. They're just gonna get lifted and killed just like that. There we go, 1 Queen. Well, I mean, we'll be transfused, but that's transfuse energy, and you just lifted the high energy Queen, so there's no transfuse happening. And these Phoenix are not dying. Actually, this is pretty cool. Notice the army on the ground is nothing. It's 3 Zealots, which don't have charge in 1 Sentry. That's just about it. It is pure Phoenix Void Ray Disruptor, which is not a composition that you see every day, but in a game like this, absolutely worthwhile here for the Protoss player. As it really feels like now Trap is just doing his last-ditch effort in this game. I mean, yeah, his army is still decently scary now. Oh, I love this. He's pushed the creep so far forward that he's able to move. He's been able to move spores onto the front lines. And look at that. We got Tempest on the way. That's interesting. As now, okay, all of the mutants in the sky have been knocked on down here. We will see some bios land rather nicely, but the disruptor shots are going to be tasty indeed. The queens, while they're getting lifted up, they are not getting knocked on down here. High energy queens have all been eliminated, and now it's just a bunch of roaches, ravagers, and queens that really can't do a lot, sitting in the sky trying to make something happen here. This spore is going to move on forward. It will go on down, and once again, the army of Solar is going to be rebuffed. The disruptor shots actually just going to absolutely whiff, but it does not really matter here. And now Tempest sitting in the sky. The long-ranged buffer damage is going to make it so difficult for Solar to ever start pushing on in, as we're just seeing two Tempests at a time. Phoenix, of course, sitting in the sky, knocking down everything that they can. I mean, they don't have energy right now, so that's a problem. But it's a problem that Solar, well, it's only a temporary one that he has caused. We have more and more Tempests reaching the sky here. And even if Trap does lose a little bit of his economy, he does have that fourth base done. He is able to mine from it pretty much whenever he wants. And now as we hit that starting to hit that critical mass of Tempests, well, Trap for the first part of this game, he has the supply lead. And that tells you everything you pretty much need to know about this game. As the Phoenix, they are absolutely uncontested. Yes, we have Corruptors hitting the field now, but they're +1 Corruptors, and that's nice, but well, it's okay. We're going to 13 of them, and that does mean they'll be able to get something done. I mean, what I will say, though, this is just an absolutely scrappy game here from Solar. It feels like every all-in is just a little bit less strong, but every all-in is just so close to making this work. And I mean, these Tempests, they're not going to die all that. They're not going to die all that slowly. Corruptors just jump on top of them and kill them off. But this one Void Ray is actually a big problem. That shield battery overcharge. But now the Void Ray will be taking on down. These Queens are going to take some disgusting shots, but it's not like they're taking any other damage. In fact, the Disruptor should get targeted down by the Queens here. And, well, the question is, do they have enough energy to keep things alive? More and more Void Rays hitting the field, and we should remember, Void Rays, they have speed. They can micro around things as they need to. Zerglin's getting on top of everything on the ground, but this is an air battle here at the end of the day. It's not about what's on the ground, not really. It's about whether Solar can break the armada of Trap before Trap breaks the army of Solar, and as these Zealots, these slow Zealots get on top of the Queens, yeah, it's not going to work out for Trap here. And Solar, he takes a 2-0 lead. And now we get into game number 3. And if there ever was a map that said, yes, I'm going to build Void Rays and I'm going to win the game off of it, it's this one. Romanticide is the map, and Romanticide is lovely for one thing and one thing alone. It is this ramp here. It is the fact that you get a natural and you get a third for the price of 1 ramp. 2 for the price of 1. And I don't think Trap is going to be upset about that one whatsoever. This is a fantastic map to break a streak on. Solar looks rather strong with this Spire style that he has been playing. And, well, we're going to have to see whether it's going to work out for him once again, or whether Trap has a solution, or whether Trap just goes for something a little bit faster. Whether he opens some sort of Twilight tech, whether it's DTs. Archon Traps started to make a resurgence just a little bit. I mean, Trap won the GSL Super Tournament based off of ground tech, not off of Sky Toss. So these are all options. I don't know what option Trap is going to go for, but I mean, they are certainly options, as we see standard builds come down from Solar from Trap at this point. Okay, so at this point, the big question in this series is, does Trap open Stargate once again, or does he do something a little bit different? I kind of alluded to that idea as the game started. I'm like, well, is it Twilight Tech or not? But this is a map that incites Stargate Tech. It says, yeah, you can have your third base for just about free, but go at it. And if you can do that, As I say that, I mean, I'm building this up, but we don't have Warp Gate on the way yet, so it looks like it will most likely be Stargate. If you can do that, well, if a map says you're going to do one thing and you do the other thing, that's even more powerful than just doing it on a standard map. It's like, say, it's a little bit different because you have the kind of the advantage of randomness in your favor, but it's like 2-raxing on a 4-player map. You know, you can put it in the middle of the map on a lot of these 4-player maps. You got a pretty good shot at guessing right, and with your SCV scout or something, you should be able to find the rest of it. And then because it's a 4-player map and it's a big map, most players don't expect that. And then it can work out for you. I mean, that's a big gamble, of course, and you know, opening up Twilight instead of Stargate, not as much a one. But still, to quote something, you know your known knowns and you know your unknown unknowns. Your known unknowns and your unknown your known unknowns and your unknown unknowns. And in a game like this, the known unknowns are things like, well, what's the opener? When does he take the third base? Unknown unknowns are things like how many pylons does he have? How many probes does he have? Does he have a proxy? Has he built something and then canceled it once I left? I mean, I guess technically those are all known unknowns because I'm able to lift them off, but they're things that are maybe more at the back of your mind than the front of your mind. Things like, oh, well, Warp Gate's late, so it's a Stargate build. Anyway, Void Ray now running across the map here as we see that little bit of blood splotch on the ground. The Zergling Scout has been denied, folks. Solar will not get a good idea of the third base timing of Trap this game. Anyway, Void Ray is not going to get too much done, which is fine. Oracle is just about done as well. And the Void Ray, I mean, you send it across the map because you want to get something done, or because you have the potential to get something done. Better way to say that. And if you don't find the ability to get it done, well, you run back, you drop down a second Stargate, you go +1 air, and you do the same build that has handed you 2 losses in the previous 2 games. I got to question Solar here, or I got to question Trap here. I mean, it's not a terrible build, and I do like it against Queen Walks, but Solar's not doing that. Solar's opening up this Spire style, which just seems rather powerful against a lot of the Protoss openers right now, which is kind of atypical. I mean, if you think about it, I'm going to get 15 meters, but I know he can get a bunch of +1 Phoenix. Doesn't feel all that great. On the flip side, you forced a bunch of +1 Phoenix, and, you know, you force a bunch of +1 Phoenix, and suddenly you're not all that useful. So it's a pretty cool idea that Solar has been going for, and Trap, he's just died to it twice. But maybe third time's going to be the charm here. I don't know. +1 attack's just about halfway done. Double Void Rays are underway. Trap just getting himself situated. You know the story at this point, folks. We've seen it 2 games in a row. Well, there we go. Spire underway once again. Solar doing the same build, but this time we have an incredibly quick fleet beacon. And on top of that, well, it is a Stargate tech here. So I almost wonder where the Trap's going to go Mass Phoenix. And you might say, that's weird. I mean, it's very clearly going to be Speed Void Rays, but we saw Astrea do a build like this, something similar against Scarlet in DreamHack Masters semi-4, I guess, losers bracket finals earlier this week. And it worked out rather well for him. Just get a bunch of Phoenix, deal with things, and, well, if you get enough Phoenix, they're never going to run out of energy, because by the time you've used most of it, the rest of it will have regen. And now Trap's going to find some value here on top of the natural. Knock down 3 drones. Fine, good job. And it's not going to be that, though. It's just going to be really quick carriers here. 6 minutes into this game. First 3 carriers, excuse me, are already out on the map. This is the most extreme version of the greed that Trap could possibly throw on out. And here's the crazy thing. I mean, granted, part of it is because 3 carriers are like 24 supply, but Trap's up just about 20 supply. And actually, these 3 carriers are going to pop on out with +1 right around the time these mutas are done. And the idea behind this deck that Solar has gone for is you get the mutas to delay the carrier tech. You make it so, okay, well, I don't have the build time. I can't afford to let these carriers, to have these carriers coming out. I need to defend now. But if you already have the carriers out, especially if they are on top of static defense, mutas do not fight well. Not at all, especially when they have +1. The mutas just get shredded. Let's see, we are... Yep, 3 carriers are out, 3 more underway. And did Solar complete... Okay, so he got the 10 mutas, and Corruptors immediately has a response. He kind of has a pretty good idea of just what type of game the Trap is playing, as he's just really seen nothing on the ground. But even with that happening, I mean, this is not an easy build to deal with here for Solar, as he will look to dive on into the natural. And looks like the carriers are not quite in position. They're defending that third base. So the mutas are going to get something done here as they look to fly out in. Just the shoot and fly idea. A guerrilla warfare at its finest. But with the cannons in the middle line, it's not like they can stay around all that long. And the carriers are now out. Static defense in the third base is going to be a bit more of a problem. Again, with the shield battery, just makes life a little bit more difficult. Not that it's going to kill too much here. Mutas, there are enough of them to one-shot probe. So 12 probes have just died over the course of this game, as this looks like this Oracle will die, not before getting the revelation off. But now the Trap knows what's happening. He's on 6 carriers, and he's like, okay, well, you know what? Void Ray speed is the name of the game regardless. +2 air attack on the way, 3 Void Rays at a time. And this army that Trap has built, I don't know that Solar can beat it. He's at 12 Corruptors, going up to 17, but we already have a decent amount of Void Rays on the map here. They have +1, +2 is underway, and the Queens can't just deal with the Void Rays because we have all of these Interceptors doing massive amounts of DPS. And yeah, a decent amount of these Interceptors are going on down. We're only on 34. That's still plenty of damage here to make something happen, as now Trap's going to move on in. The +1 carrier timing. It's not the +2 carrier timing, but when you catch your opponent off guard like this, Solar just doesn't have anything he needs. He had a bunch of Queens, but they're just getting targeted on down. These carriers are dominant in the skies. The amount of anti-air that Solar has is just about nothing at this point. GG Trap. He takes game number 3 and makes it a series. And now as we get to this point in the game, the next question, as we talked about last game as well, is does Trap do the same build that he has done, or the same opener that he's done 3 games in a row? Looks like that answer is yes. So now the question is, how quickly does he rush to carriers? The carrier build worked once. He didn't try it the other 2 games. He just died to mutas beforehand. And I mean, look, if you have one build, if you one variant of your build that's died twice, and you have one variant of your build that's worked against Solar, who has also done a similar opener 3 games in a row, well, it seems like that would tell you that maybe you've solved it. Maybe you should go back to the 6-minute fleet beacon, triple Stargate carrier, and go from there. That being said, this map is not romanticized. It is not nearly as free of a macro game to get on into it as romanticide is. And with that being the case, well, Trap may just not feel like he can get away with a grid that was required to have game number 2 work, because honestly, there are certainly timings where if you're rushing triple Stargate carrier against a, well, we talk about it, a Queen Walk build, something like that, I don't know, not as great. Although you do still have triple Stargate Void Rays, so maybe that's not all that great. I don't know. I certainly do know that a Queen Hydronitis is something that Solar has taught us that is very good against that style. So we're going to have to see whether he throws this out in game number 4. If we do see Trap going for that quick Stargate, or not quick Stargate, we already saw that, but for that quick Fleet Beacon once again. But oh, this is interesting. Trap doing a very different build in this game. We have the 1 Oracle out already and a second one underway. Now, this could be a couple things. This could just be ground tech. Generally, if you go see a Protoss player go up to 2-3 Oracles, it means that they're not really committing to air all that much. This also could be a Zest build. Zest very much enjoys going triple Oracle into carriers. That was his triple. That is his 2.5 base carrier build. We're gonna have to see, as we do have a 3rd Oracle underway here from Trap. So again, could be ground tech, could it be carriers? We're just gonna have to see when the Temple Archives gets dropped down, if it does. As now the Oracles, they're gonna run across the map, and of course this means they 1-tap drones now instead of 2-tap, which is always rather nice indeed. It means there's just a little bit more damage potential for these Oracles. They look to dive on in Nice target fire from Solar, making sure that it is only damage on one of the oracles, not split amongst the two of them, which means this oracle is a little bit more of a problem. That being said, the oracle will dive on in. Both of them will escape. Nice control here from Trap. 6 drones do go down, and there's a third oracle, or a third oracle that can tank for the first two if he wants to dive in once again. But there we go. Twilight going down, Forge as well. Solar, well, not Solar, but Trap is just not committing to the air style as much as he has in the previous 3 games, and I kind of like this. Romanticide, maybe it's a little bit harder to deal with Queen Walks, fine, that is absolutely true. But also, on a map like this, in a game like this, or really I should say in a series like this, you do the same thing 3 games in a row. It kind of makes sense to start changing things up, because by this point, you've kind of conditioned Solar into this idea of I'm going for +1 double Stargate Void Ray in the carrier again and again and again. And maybe now Solar says, okay, well, if you're going to do that, if you're going to be as greedy as you were in the last game, I'm going to come try to break you. But it's gateways. It's not that Sky Tech. As of right now, we only have 2 gateways on the map, and more are underway. And that being said, this is still rather scary here for Trap, as he only has two gateways. And most of his static defense is not done. I mean, we have 4 cannons, 2 shield batteries underway, but they're not here yet. And the roaches are, the queens are absolutely here. And the benefit of Juggernaut, it forces the Protoss player to take 2 engagements at once. You can wedge yourself on in between the natural and the third base of Zerglings. They're going to get on top of a bunch of these shield batteries. Or, excuse me, not these shield batteries. A bunch of these sentries, knock them down. I mean, I guess sentries are kind of like shield batteries, right? They do provide protection. But anyways, the sentries will get jumped upon, but they should be able to survive. And they are able to survive with shield batteries, with cannons, with force fields. And it's only a 20 army supply lead. I mean, it does feel like this timing here from Solar starting to time out just a little bit, but the oracles are running out of energy. And when the oracles don't have energy like that, that just makes it a lot more difficult for this hold to happen, because that is a solid, what, 6, 8, 10 army supply. What is it? 6 or 9 army supply that is just really not able to fight all that much. Now the Roaches, the Ravagers, the Zerglings, they're taking this fight. Shield battery overcharge is done. There's actually just not a lot of energy in these shield batteries whatsoever. So the Roaches, the Ravagers, the Queens, they're just starting to get on top of things. We're going to start to see some probes go down. And now Solar's starting to find a little bit of the value he's looking for. He needs to get more, right? He's only on 43 workers. He does need to break this third base in its entirety and hopefully maybe even get a couple worker kills beyond that. But he has done such a fantastic job here. He has boxed the army of of Trap into a corner. Oh, and who has boxed 2 into a corner here? It's a flank on a flank on a flank. As Trap, he got a bit of an expedition force, sallying forth, sorting forth on the right-hand side. But now we're going to have to see some recalls going on. Please drop the Biles, but no, the Biles, I guess they're on cooldown, so not nearly as much value here from Solar as he possibly could have had. The third base is broken. The third base will go down, but you know, there's a wonderful thing about making this hold happen as long as it did, and I really didn't notice the Darktron going on down. We have DTs here now. That means that Solar, his damage in this game, it's done. It's not a thing anymore. He's going to try to retreat, go home with as much as he can, but these queens are in fact dead. And yeah, this is a nice early warning system. Trap should be able to, or Solar should be able to make sure that he does not lose anything more, because he's going to have spores. He's going to have his lair going down, but still, Trap honestly didn't lose all that much. I mean, yes, he lost a third, but he only lost 8 workers. Didn't really lose that much of his army. And with that being said, I mean, Solar has been on 43 workers for the majority of this game. Solar lost a lot of queens that had energy. He lost a lot of Ravagers. And, well, actually, I'm sorry, he only lost one Ravager. Only 100 cast lost in this game. That's insane. But still, Solar's economy has not been in a great spot for them. I mean, it's here now, but it's only just in the last minute or so that he's been able to develop that. I don't know if Trap's going to be able to break in here. I mean, I like the idea. It's 3 Archons. That is a really powerful, that's a rather beefy force that's looking to move on in. But with Charge, with Archons, I mean, this is a decent amount of Roaches, Ravagers, and Queens. I don't think that Trap should be able to break on in here. It is still a 30 army supply deficit. But what he's doing is he's saying, hey, look, Solar, I know you're trying to go and build an economy after you really didn't have much of one this entire game. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move out. I'm going to pressure. I'm going to force you to build Roaches, Ravagers, Lings, whatever you want, as long as it's not drones. But of course, Trapper's really never going to be super aggressive there, because his Robo is only just, well, I'm sorry. Is one Robo, but he's getting a second. Does he have a Robo Bay? No, he does not. So it's just going to be double Robo Immortal. Very interesting. That does kind of solidify this idea that Trap may want to get aggressive rather soon. I mean, if this was going to go a little bit later, he'd go with something like Disruptors, which just provide more value over time. But okay, there we go. It will be Disruptors or Colossus after all. Rebel Bay is underway here. And now +1 is done. These Zerglings will not really find that much value as Solar getting on up to a much more serviceable economy. 72 workers will be... He's going to stop somewhere between like 72 and 76. And yeah, he's got Baneling speed underway. +1 air, or excuse me, +1 ranged attack as well. And he's just looking to build a sledgehammer of an army. Make it big, make it beefy, and make Banelings able to explode everything. That's going to be the name of the game here for Solar's. He just wants to run on in and break the third base once again. And if he's able to break Solar's, or break Trap's third for a second time, that's probably going to be all she wrote there for the Protoss player, because his economy at that point, he really won't have any mineral patches in the main or the natural. And at that point, the economy of Trap is just going to be in the dumps. It's not great now, because again, it is 10 minutes into this game and he only has 3 bases, but it's not the end of the world. Losing that third base absolutely would be, but oh, look at this. It is double Colossus production, not Disruptors. I don't know how I feel about that, actually. I mean, Blink is not done. It's not even being researched. Yeah, we're going to have +2 underway, but they're not that many sentries, as we just have Banelings and Ravagers looking to roll on in. I mean, first of all, Colossus take longer to build than Disruptors do, so that's always a problem. We don't have any Colossus on the field just yet. Actually, it looks like Solar's going to hit an absolutely masterful timing before the Colossus are out, before Extended Thermal Lance is done, before Trap is really able to build that army that he wants to be able to deal with this. So now, well, we have Baneling speed. It is done. It's going to start to roll on in. Colossus popping out now. Now Trap has 2 of them, but Banelings come crashing on into the third base. The probes are going to be pulled in time. The Banelings are going to be able to knock down some portion of this army, knocking down the static defense. And honestly, as long as Solar gets the base, I don't think he cares all that much, as long as he doesn't trade too poorly. The cannons are going to start to go on down. We're going to see some pylons that get targeted on down as well. And if these Banelings get on top of the Colossus, that is kind of the endgame state that Solar is looking for. As he's sitting here up 30 army supply, Banelings looking to roll on in, crashing on into things. Trap has lost a lot of his chaff, but certainly not the wheat, not yet. His army is still strong. He's not lost much of his tech, but now Zerglings are getting on top of things here. Colossus gently microing backwards for all they're worth, but the Immortals are starting to go down. The Colossus are really all that remains here of Trap's army, but Solar's army supply is starting to equalize rather significantly. But we talked about this. The third base is really all that matters for Trap in this game. Now, Solar can return home. Now, Solar can lick his wounds. Now, Solar can build another army, because Trap is forced to be all in. That Colossus tech that he has, it's strong when the Zerg player is off creep. On creep, though, with the capacity for surrounds, for vision, for just a faster army. This army that Trap has built for himself, it's a lot more flimsy. It is much more vulnerable than it was when Solar was looking to get aggressive off creep. And Trap knows this, so he will try to micro back off a creep as much as he can. But the Roaches, Ravagers, Zerglings, they're going to surround from everywhere. Queens as well. Bring the whole kit and caboodle, because it's kill this army, win the game. Actually, don't even have to kill the army. Kill an Immortal, win the game. Solar wins the series 3-1, and he moves on to the grand finals.